What's up guys, and welcome to another episode of Shot Archery Tips. In this episode we will be talking about releases and whether or not you are using the best release for you and your performance. And of course that's easier said than done, but in this video I'm going to share some insight into how you can find your release soulmate. There's a simple reason why we use mechanical releases. It's for consistency. Your release needs to maximize how consistently you send the arrow down range. There are 5 areas where I can sum up the issues that you might be facing. This is movement, anchor point, timing, tension, and anticipation. Most videos out there will talk about the benefits of this new release, or the video is just straight advertising for the company. Here's what they're missing. They don't give you the information that you need to decide if this release is going to be good for you. Of course they wouldn't. Why would they? They want you to buy a new release. In the end, that's not a bad thing as long as you're not selling your bow to get a new release. The problem is people are sometimes buying the wrong release for them and it's screwing with their performance. The reality for most of us archers is we're just spinning a wheel and guessing what release might be right for us, or we're just getting a release that someone might have recommended to us. If you guess wrong and get the wrong release, this can really throw off your game. Not only does it mess with your release and execution, but it affects your hold, your anchor, timing, and all-around consistency. Don't worry, this isn't just you. The majority of archers and bow hunters that are watching this video have all gone through this. Local ranges typically don't have enough selection for us to try out, so it's up to chance or just plain guessing. So you're probably wondering, if you can't try everything out, what's the best process to make a good decision? I'm not sure if it's the best process, but I'll at least share my process and you can decide if it works for you. The first thing that we're going to do is get educated on the 5 factors that define a good release. Once we understand those factors, we will learn how those things apply to your archery and how you can use this information to determine what's most going to help you. Whether it's a new release or a small form change, this will give you the ability to make a better decision on what you need and what you need to avoid. Before we get started, I'm just going to give a shameless plug to my website, StrongShotArchery.com, where I'm providing one-on-one personalized coaching online. A ton of people have asked for help with their shooting, and I'm really enjoying helping them out. It's coaching on your schedule. Students send me videos of them shooting. I produce the breakdowns of their form, give them tips on what to work on. Sometimes we call and chat about the issues, and if they run into a problem at the range, they shoot me a text. If you're at the point where you think some coaching might help you get to the next level, check out the website and sign up for a free session. There's no obligation, and it's the best way to see if online coaching might be right for you. Okay, now let's get into it. Before we talk about those 5 factors, let's briefly talk about the releases themselves. We can sum releases up into 2 types: trigger releases and back tension releases. When we're talking about trigger releases, in general, what we're saying is that our release is activated by some mechanical manipulation on the release. At the most basic level, it's a lever like the trigger on a gun, but it can also be thumb activated, pinky activated, and you can probably find options for all of your other fingers as well. The benefits of having a trigger release is the ability to command the shot whenever the situation calls for it. So if you're in super windy conditions or you only have a few seconds to get a shot off, you can command the release when you need it. The drawback of this is exactly what the benefit is. Your brain has control. That control can also cause target panic and other technique issues. So sometimes it can be good and sometimes it can be bad. Okay, let's quickly solve this very common misconception with the word back tension. Back tension is used a lot in archery and has multiple meanings. So let's split it up for better understanding. There are 2 terms, back tension and back tension releases. First, we'll cover back tension. This is the method of using your back muscles to execute the shot. You most commonly see this in the follow-through of a lot of successful archers. This is the outcome of activating your back muscles to pull and initiate the release. Once you release, that back tension continues, which causes the follow-through. It's like pulling on a rope connected to a wall, and then all of a sudden the rope breaks and then you continue to pull and fall back. Now that we understand that, what are back tension releases? These are releases that are designed to initiate based off pulling with your back muscles. There are 2 types of back tension releases: hinge releases and pressure releases. A hinge release initiates based off rotation, so as you execute with your back muscles, the release rotates. It then gets to a specific angle where it automatically lets go. Pressure releases, on the other hand, initiate based off of a specific poundage being met. So you can set the release to go off once it hits 20 pounds, for example. You keep pulling, and as soon as you hit that pressure limit, it lets go. The problem that archers and bow hunters face is not only the sheer number of releases out there, but the fact that your release choice can affect so many other things. Once I was shooting and working on trying to fix a low hold. I tried working with my bow arm, weight setup, draw length, even alignment. It turned out that the problem was my release. As I was executing, my hand was slowly slipping off and the release was coming forward and letting up. This is what was causing my low hold. After days of working on this, a quick wrap and grip tape fixed the problem. Your release choice has an effect on your anchor, execution, follow through, hold, mental game, and there is so much more. It is interconnected with so many factors that it can result in problems that you wouldn't even think would be related. Now that we understand the different types of releases, let's get into those 5 factors of a perfect release. As we know, consistency is the reason we have a release, and we should try to maximize our consistency with it. Movement can be a huge problem with a lot of people because the release is one of the few areas of contact with the bow. This means that any inconsistency there will have a direct effect on the accuracy of the shot. This can stem from things like the settings of your release being off, overthinking the shot, angle of execution, or an inconsistent setup of the shot. And I know there are likely many other causes that I didn't say. If your release is moving during the shot, you're going to be facing some major inconsistencies, and you likely can't even tell that the release is moving. You would think that you would be able to sense the movement, but since the release hand is behind your line of sight and your muscle memory has built up over time, you likely don't even know what's happening. A perfect example of this is from an archery I coach named Steve Rosburg. As he was executing, there was a lot of movement in his release. He didn't even know this was happening. But once we got him to execute at a different angle, it took away the movement and it solved some major consistency issues. From here, we can move on to anchor points. This is key in promoting consistency and especially lack of movement. If your anchor has bad placement, isn't consistent, or isn't solid enough, you're going to be facing some major misses that seem to come out of nowhere. This could be due to bad sizing of the release, but most of the time it is just a simple mistake of using the wrong anchor. Anchor points are tough because everybody's facial structure is different, and there are very common anchor points that everyone says to do, but I think some people are using the wrong one for them. Anchor points are about having security and consistency. This means that it needs to be solid and not going to move. And it also needs to be in the same spot every shot. Having these 2 things will make for a perfect anchor. So reevaluate whether your anchor is the right one for you. Don't be afraid to experiment with different options if it's not 100% right. Shot timing. We've all heard of it, but what is it? Personally, I define it as the amount of time between hitting the wall and then the release firing. If there's a lot of variation in that timing, for example, 7 seconds for one arrow and 10 seconds for another, you will likely face consistency issues. A really good shot timing usually is within a second, so in this situation, they would all be in the 7-second mark. That being said, these inconsistent timing issues predominantly come from an issue with the release. This could be from rate of execution, release setting, or inconsistent setup of the shot. Having consistent timing is key to having accurate shots, so play around with shot timing. Try messing with the settings on your release and make it faster or slower. One major thing about timing is you can't think about it. The best way to target this issue is to play with different variables of timing, work on improving it, but let go and stop thinking about it. Get into a flow and let the shots happen. This will let your natural timing return because it will not be consistent if it is forced. Muscle tension is the weakness of any archer, especially in the release. Having muscle tension here and there won't cause anything major, but if you put that tension in the release hand, that shot is inevitably going to be rough. The problem is when you have this hand and wrist tension, you typically can't feel it. You're holding so much weight that a little bit of extra tension in the hand doesn't feel much different. It can also become a part of your shot as muscle memory, so you would never think it would be a problem. I used to be a great example of what not to do with your release hand. After every single shot, I would shoot and you would see my wrist instantly flick to the side, which were causing these right misses. I could not find the problem for the life of me. I got somebody to film me shoot and then bam, I saw it. Tension is extremely hard to replicate. So that is why even though I did it on every shot, I still was having dramatic misses to the right. Keep in mind that this left to right variance could be coming from either of your hands. But if you're flicking to the side like me, you'll be seeing left misses if you're right-handed and right misses if you're left-handed. Let's move on to anticipation, which can be a huge culprit that a lot of archers face. Sometimes archers can be struggling with anticipation and not even know what's happening. You've probably seen this plenty of times when people punch the release. A lot of the time, anticipation comes from some underlying issue. This could be lack of confidence, too much control, pressure of the situation, or maybe target panic. Target panic is a larger and more problematic version of all of these issues. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but if you are running into target panic, I highly recommend you look into getting some help, or at least researching and figuring out your target panic. Everybody's target panic is different. I'll make a video on target panic in the future, so make sure to subscribe. Anyways, anticipation can also be something that you very clearly feel. You could be feeling anxiety while you're aiming, or you get stuck aiming low, or once the pin or dot gets close to the center, you jitter or jump. There are so many variations of this because everybody's anticipation interacts with their shooting differently. If you're struggling with anticipation, there are release options that can be more beneficial than others. But in the end, this is a problem with your mental game. To get rid of a weed in your yard, you destroy the roots, not the stem. What I would recommend is finding the root of the problem and attacking it. I've seen a lot of archers that buy a back tension release to solve their target panic, and it goes away for a week and then returns because the real roots of the problem are still there. Wow, okay, so that was a lot of information, so let's go over what we just learned. We talked about 5 factors: movement, anchor, timing, tension, and anticipation. Movement in the release is such a major factor because your release is one of the few places you have contact with your bow. So if there is any movement like punching the release or shaking as you pull, you'll be facing inconsistency that seems to be random. Anchor is just as important because if your anchor doesn't have security and consistency, you're going to be struggling with some sizable misses. Timing is another key element in consistency. It's not required for having good shots, but if you want to push your accuracy to the highest level, you need repeatable timing. Timing can be a hidden problem because it shows itself through different issues. Tension is likely one of those factors that you see when the true issue is actually timing. Tension can't be seen or felt during the shot process. It's not like there is movement happening while you're shooting. That tension has potential movement, so you see it in the follow-through of the shot. In my case, my hand was flicking out to the side. This causes seemingly random misses. Finally, anticipation. There are a lot of variations of it which can result from a bad mindset, incorrect release setting, or even the wrong type of release. But in the end, this is a mental issue. I highly recommend you work on attacking the roots of the problem instead of just stopping yourself from punching. With all that being said, my goal in this video is to give you the knowledge to become deliberate in your purchases. You can't believe the hype in these releases unless you've shot it yourself. Sponsored pros get paid to say that these new releases are the best out there. I think Beaubouef is the greatest example of how we should be. In an interview with Bowjunky in 2013, he says he's been using that release for 8 or 9 years. And guess what? He's still using that release. So that means he's been using it for roughly 14 years. Let me just show you the clip.
Scott Longhorn. You know how old this thing is? Probably 8 years, 9 years old. Always use the same one. I think that's the issue a lot of people have. You know, it's like they're constantly searching for the magic pill.
Yeah.
You know, and that's instead of picking something and sticking with it and shooting it, and you know, regardless of whether, you know, whenever you shoot it, you're gonna. It takes your body time to get used to it.
He says it's about finding what works for you and sticking with it. There is no magic pill. So what I want you to do is take all this information in and test. Now that you know the important factors of release, this should give you the ability to evaluate them and make your purchases deliberate. You're probably wondering how on earth you're going to tell if you have any of these issues. This is where the magic of cameras come in. The majority of you have high quality cameras in your phones, so let's put them to use. You can look for all of these problems, excluding anticipation, with just a few videos. So here's the homework I have for you. Of course, you don't have to do it, but this is just a way to evaluate your current state. Get one of your friends to film you shooting for 3 rounds, 9 arrows in total. 1 video from behind, 1 close-up on your release, and 1 close-up in front of you. So in these videos, we are looking for 4 things: movement, anchor, tension, and timing issues. In this rear angle, we are looking for any tension in the follow-through of the shot. If we see any flicks to the side or any sudden movement in the wrist after the shot, this is tension. In the parallel angle, we're going to be looking for any awkward movement in the release. This could be punching, twitches, slipping off the release, a build in tension or relaxation, etc. This is also good footage to look for any anchor movement. If it is coming forward or if there's any major movement in it, there's trouble in the anchor or the release may be slipping. Now from the front angle. This video will allow you to take a look at the anchor and its contact with your face. You should be able to see any variation from anchor to anchor or any major movements. Again, we're looking for security and consistency. Next is shot timing, which we will use all 3 clips that you just recorded. Grab a stopwatch or another phone and time each shot from when you hit the wall to when the release fires. Record each of these times and look at the variation. What is the range of your shot timing variation? Are all of your shots similar in timing? Do you have major outliers, or is it random every shot? It would also be good to ask yourself if your shot timing is getting longer and longer as you shoot more arrows. This could tell us that you're struggling with fatigue. Take note of all of this. For all of these video clips, keep in mind that one arrow won't do for finding problems. You need at least 3 shots for one angle to find any variation or issues. The more the merrier. And last but not least, anticipation. No, I didn't forget about anticipation, but it can be really challenging to self-diagnose since you can't film anticipation. What I would recommend is to think about your mental process and think of whether you might be running into anticipation issues. Are you punching or forcing the release when it comes close to the center, or feel anxiety while aiming? Commanding the release is fine as long as it is slow and deliberate and not fast and forced, because that is when you get inconsistency. I have one last question for you to ask yourself to finish up this self-evaluation. Are you even confident in the release that you have now? If you don't have confidence in this release, you aren't going to be able to perform at your highest potential. That doubt will always be in the back of your mind when you're shooting that release. So what you need to do is either work with it, find those issues, and rebuild that confidence, or search for a better release. Not just a new release, but a better one. All right, let me teach you my process of finding a better release. Let's say you've evaluated yourself and you're at the range trying out a new release. How do you evaluate whether it's right for you? First, keep in mind that you aren't going to be able to tell if a release is right for you instantly. It takes time to adjust to a new release and develop that muscle memory. So use this time to break out of your usual habits and make sure those 5 factors are perfected. Use it as a reset button. Now ask yourself these questions. Where did you find weaknesses in your release in the videos? What type of release do you need for what you're trying to accomplish? For example, the majority of hunters need some form of a trigger release. Are you finding improvements in the 5 factors in this release? Does it have enough adjustability and micro-tunability for you to be able to find the best setting for you? And finally, is it a shape that allows you to not slip and to control the release while staying relaxed? Use this list of questions for whenever you're evaluating a new release. Okay, that was a lot of information. If you think that you need a second set of eyes to check out your release or just your form in general, check out StrongShotArchery.com. I know it can be tough to self-diagnose, trust me, I do it all the time, so check it out and everybody gets a free session. If you have any questions, comment down below or shoot me an email and I'll answer as soon as I can. If this video helped you in any way, shape, or form, make sure to subscribe because I have more content like this on the way. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.